I'm a toxic mom. Of course my kids are my emotional support system. Hi, I'm a toxic mom. Of course my kids loving their dad means that they hate me. Hi, I'm a toxic mom. Of course my kids can spend all the time in the world with my family, but if they spend any time with dad's family, that means he's not executing his parental responsibilities. Hi, I'm a toxic mom. Of course I'm going to tell the school and the doctor's office that dad's not allowed to have any of that information and they better not release it to him. But then I'm going to tell everybody else that he doesn't try to actively be involved in his child's life. Hi.
This happens countless amount of times. I know family, friends, acquaintances, work partners, people who are in my lives personally who have went through this if they have kids. And this is the dangers of getting into a relationship with the wrong person. Now, this is not about a relationship. This is just about what we all experience. And I'm at an age now, I'm 29, to where if I don't see my mother and my father at all for the rest of my life, I will be quite okay, simply because of this behavior right here. See, when I was younger, I was made to believe my dad was toxic. This past Father's Day, I was the most appreciative of my father throughout my life, of my 29 years of living, because I realized up until 21 that I was fed a whole bunch of lies. Now, me and my dad have never been far apart. We've always been close, but my perception of him changed the longer I stayed with my mother, because she was bitter, she was hurt, she was lashing her emotions out on me in hopes to get back at him, and she turned into this archetype type of woman. I don't believe every woman is this type of woman, but enough of them are this type of woman. They hate the father more than they love the children. Shout out to CGA for that saying. They hate the father more than they love the children, and this is when they turn into a toxic mother. And you can even hear it in her voice. She's saying everything and all the innuendos that people get away with saying, and society does nothing to punish these women for it. And it's absolutely sick. I mean, think about the time that I've lost with my father, because I believed what he was putting me through was toxic, was bad, and it wasn't good for my health. Now I know it was done for my own good.
I'm a toxic mom. Of course I'm going to throw any presents away dad sends. Ew, I don't want his shit in my house. Hi, I'm a toxic mom. Of course I'm going to accuse dad of everything I'm doing so it looks like a giant tit for tat game. Hi, I'm a toxic mom. Of course I'm going to make my children feel massive amounts of guilt and emotionally gaslight them every time they're or enjoy anything that has to do with their dad.
And this is it's funny because like everything that she's saying, I'm low-key getting goosebumps, because I remember back in the day when these things would happen. I mean, the blame game, the over-the-top gestures, and the emotional manipulation, the putting different things in our ears, saying that he never shows up to your basketball games, football games. And this is why you see a lot of kids go no contact, especially Gen Z and millennials, because for me, I'm not going to put up with disrespect. I'm not gonna, whether you're family, friends, I don't care who you are, I'm not gonna put up with disrespect. And a lot of the times, family is the main progenitors of disrespect. They think they can get away with it because they're your brother, they're your sister, they're your mother, and their father. And then whenever you tell somebody else about your issues and what you're going through with in your family situation, they'll say, well, this is your mother. You should love her because you're your mother. And then Tupac will make a song called Dear Mama and completely absolve her from any responsibility, even though she was a crack fiend, mama. Even though the blacker the berry is sweeter the juice, mama. Even though that she did so much harm back in her younger years because she split you away from her dad, we still give her an excuse. We still give her an out. And now it's coming back to bite them in the ass, because majority of people, more than you know, are starting to go no contact with their parents. And this is coming from millennials and Gen Z. You see the housing crisis that we're in. We're probably not going to be able to buy a house. I actually just spoke on that yesterday. We're probably never going to feel the joys of having a family, because relationships are not set up for two people to be together long term. It's set up for individuals to keep on working, to keep on chugging away, to keep on completing the rat race, so that way these companies can flourish. And we're going to get to this no contact in just a second with another gentleman who's going to speak on this. But let's continue this lady, because she's cooking right now.
Hi, I'm a toxic mom. Of course I'm going to make everything so difficult and make dad's life as miserable as possible to have any kind of involvement or engagement with his kid. And then when he chooses to no longer engage in my abuse or allow me to abuse him, I'm going to call him a deadbeat and say that he walked away from his kids. I'm a toxic mom. I can't take any second in the day without my babies. But fuck Dad. He shouldn't be sad that he doesn't have them. Ew. And remember, I'm a toxic mom, so everything is about me.
And then also, this is the reason why parents kind of wash their hands of kids, especially these guys who are divorced, who are overseas, who are extremely successful, or even who are moderately successful. They go overseas, they start a new family, they wash their hands of the kids, they don't want anything to do with them. And then later on in their life, kid finds out that it wasn't his fault all along. The reason why they wash their hands of this because of antics like this, and nobody sees it. Nobody calls it out. Not the Dave Ramseys of the world. Certainly not him, because Matt Walsh either. He's the one who pushes marriage. He's the one that pushes relationships. But 99.99% of all relationships fail. If I could write down every single relationship, this is the exercise me and the Money Mindset group have. If I could write down every single one of the relationships that I had up until this point and look back at them and see where they are now, I know that every single relationship has failed. And that's for a reason, because there's a 99.9% chance that all your relationships are going to fail. There's no such thing as the right one. There's no such thing as a soulmate. It's just what it is. It's human nature. We're not made to be with one person for the rest of our lives. And believing this love romance in your soulmate, you're only supposed to find one person for the rest of your life, is a bunch of baloney. It's a bunch of bullshit. Because if you did find that one person you're supposed to be with for the rest of your life, then what are you going to do with it? Humans are just like animals. We need diversity. We need a different array of things. And this is no more pronounced than in marriage. As soon as monogamy has been invented, when it was invented, it automatically was failed. Now, marriage, because of the implications that it can bring, the massive amount of debt that it can hold, especially if she went to college or something like that, is becoming outdated, which then turns the parents into working machine, which then translates to the kids not getting the proper care, and then eventually leads to the crack of a relationship. Because guess what? She's going to want you to stay home. She's going to want you to spend more time with the kid and with her, and to help clean and cook and do all this bullshit chores and shit like that. Then in effect, everything that you're working on as far as your dreams, your aspirations are going to be affected over this, which then leads to a loss in your income. Then on top of that, because you're not bringing in the money that you used to bring, or you took a dip because you wanted to spend more time with her, she's then going to blame you for not making enough money, or blame you for pushing her into the arms of somebody else. You know what I mean? And then that's when the alienation begins because you're going to be divorced. Your kids are going to be back and forth. They're going to be living out of backpacks like I did. And they're not going to know exactly what to think about you. They're not going to see you in, let's just say, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, which is pretty normal in my case because my dad was military. But a lot of guys need to see their kids on a day-to-day basis. Let's go to the next guy. We're going to take you to the next guy because he has some good points as well.
There's an increase in the number of people cutting off their parents, but there's one thing I've noticed about this trend. Has anybody else noticed that when an adult child chooses not to have a relationship with a parent, it's always, but it's your mom and dad. You only get one mom and dad. Why are you doing that? And it's never, wow, what could a parent have done to cause their child to make this decision but feel like it was the right one? It's never, what happened that made a grown adult feel like the need to walk away from the people who raised them? And it's definitely never, but they're your children. How can you treat them that way? Why is the weight placed on the child? Why is the burden of maintaining peace, preserving connection, and forgiving endlessly dumped onto the very person who's probably carrying the scars?
And let me just interrupt him really quickly, because at this point in my life, I am not a child. I was an adult at 15. That being said, if they had those expectations of us up until a certain point, that's fine. But I was brought up in an environment to where a lot of those things were bred into us since we were 5, 4, 6, 7 years old. A lot of things that they wanted us to do, and they teach us how to be independent, how to be functional, how to be responsible, they were bred into us from a young age while they were still married. What happens after that, after the divorce, when people become bitter and hurt and angry for how they were treated in their life being quote unquote taken away, that's when all the things start to come to the surface. And all the blame gets put on the kid and why he doesn't want to talk or have any relations with either side of the coin. Now, in my case, I don't want to have any contact with my mom's. I'm completely fine with my dad because I realized that everything that I was told about him after they divorced was a complete lie. So now that I'm older, I understand more, which is why I'm saying, like, hey, listen, if you give me any disrespect, if you don't treat me like an adult, even though I'm not paying your bills or anything like that, I don't have to deal with you.
Think maybe that parent wasn't a safe person. Maybe the parent was emotionally manipulative, abusive, dismissive, narcissistic, or just constantly absent when it mattered most. Maybe parent was just a title and not something they lived up to. And yet the child is the one questioned. The child is the one who's guilted, shamed, or gaslit. There's this automatic defense of the parent as if the role of parent comes with some lifetime immunity from accountability. But here's the truth. People don't cut off their parents typically for no reason. It's not impulsive. It's not heartless. It's usually the last result after years of trying, years of hoping things would change, years of therapy, tears, inner conflict. It's often deep, painful act of self-preservation. And yet society keeps asking the wrong question. Instead of why did you walk away, maybe it's time to start asking what happened that made staying impossible.
That's a good point. And I kind of lost my train of thought, so I do apologize about that. But going back to my original statement, I just think that with some parties, they're going to, no matter what, emotionally manipulate you to try to get what they want, to try to survive, to try to get that edge in society because they have no other option. This could be a man or a woman, but most typically, especially in my situation, it's the woman, it's my mother. So there's nothing that I can do about that. She's going to continue to gaslight. She's going to continue to manipulate. And I understand these facts about her, which is why I've forgiven her for what she's done. And I can love her at a distance without any hard feelings. I'm not going to go back to her on my knees begging for her support. Because guess what? I know what that comes with. Guess what? I know that if I break now, then she's going to forever hold it over my head. And I just can't have that. Which is why we have the issues and we're in the situation that we're in. I think, personally, the boomers were probably some of the worst parents. My parents are about 75, 73 years old. I've spoken on this before. They're some of the worst parents in the world. Too careful, didn't want us to get hurt, didn't want us to make our own mistakes. And when we did make our own mistakes, they reacted over the top like this was something abnormal, like we were supposed to be the perfect imitation of children, which then puts a strain on us, which then pushes us further away from them. And instead of having us an intact family, we have a family who's all over the place. Somebody's in Japan, St. Louis, Mississippi, Seattle, California, whatever the case may be, Arkansas, in my case, we're all over the map. And there's nothing that can be done except for try to rebuild that relationship. But what if somebody's manipulation goes so deep, their manipulation goes so far that they can't even necessarily see the difference between the brother that once was versus the brother that is now. The father that once was versus the father that is now, because all those ideas and those memories have been manipulated to the whim of somebody who was going to take advantage of that. So look, as I end this and put a bow in this, we're going to start to see more people speak on this. We're going to start to see more people kind of blame their parents. And yes, at first glance, they're at fault. But at the same time, as an adult, we have to take responsibility for our lives. We did not ask to be here. We did not ask to be here, but we're here. And so we have to do everything in our power to make sure that we thrive while we're here, if not for their sake, but for our sake. And everything that we should do, especially as a man, should be for our sake. Now, as I close, I just want to say this because I said that before. Now, for real, I'm going to close. I'm going to want to say this. Have you ever had your parents divorce? Drop it down below in the comment section. Your parents divorced and you had an idea about your father, or you never knew your father, and you heard some filthy lies being told about him, and you find out later that it wasn't true, and you reconnected and you rekindled, and it was something that was a piece of you that was missing. Let me know down in the comment section below if you've ever experienced this, and I'll read them. Maybe we'll do a video of it. I love you. I appreciate you. I'll let you guys later. Peace.